better roll them dice. You never know if it could change your life. Take a chance, you're neither wrong or right. You never know if you don't roll them dice. You better roll them dice. You never know.
Rob, how long after we're declared overdue can we expect a rescue?
3D6 days.
3D6 days? Hey, man, I don't want to rain on your parade, but we're not going to last 3D6 hours. These things are going to come in here just like they did before, and they're going to come in here.
Matt!
They're going to get us. They're going to get us, Rob.
Matt, this little Teamster girl survived longer than that with no weapons and no firearm skill training, right?
Why don't you put her in charge, Rob?
I will. Matt, did you know that in space, no one can hear you scream?
That's right. We're reviewing Mothership with apologies to Bill Paxton and the creators of Mothership, too.
Rest in peace to Bill Paxton. I just rewatched Twister in anticipation of Twisters.
Great films.
Not Bill's best performance, but still missed. He was great.
Helen Hunt looks great.
Great in Aliens, though. Did you know? You might think that the reason why no one can hear you scream is because sound doesn't travel through a vacuum. But actually, the real reason is because space is very big.
Oh. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah. There's a lot of it, I've heard.
There's a lot.
And there's
really
a lot.
Really good tagline. I've been thinking about it. No one actually screams in Alien. I don't think there's any screaming. No, that's not true. Sorry. There's some screaming during the chest burster. Okay. Sorry, I forgot. Right. But definitely everyone could hear the screaming when the chest burster was happening. I'm just thinking during the part when the alien is hunting everybody, not a lot of screaming. Everyone just kind of dies real quick if they're going to die. Anyway, this is Dungeon Master of None.
I'm Dungeon Master Matt.
I'm Dungeon Master Rob. And we are talking about Mothership First Edition. Obviously, we are fans of the science fiction horror genre, and that's what this game is about, is dying slowly in space. Sometimes dying quickly in space.
And this is by Sean McCoy, lead designer and Tuesday Night Games, and it's confusingly titled First Edition when in fact it is clearly the Second Edition. So there's an earlier release of Mothership that I think Rob and I have both played in a short campaign of. This is just I think maybe I'm being too harsh here. The First Edition is being like, all right, this is the First Edition where we really got our shit together. We made this nice box set off of $1.5 million Kickstarter. Everything looks really nice. And so, I'm going to give them the ability to call this First Edition.
I haven't read their explanation or justification for this. I'm assuming that it's because the first edition was more of like a beta, and this is the first real. So aside from the fact that it's confusing to talk about because there's already been a playable edition of this for several years that Matt and I have played with, this is the first real edition. It is now out of beta, which I don't think is an awful way to sort of think of game design, but it is confusing in terms of terminology.
And while we won't be spelling out all the differences between this edition and the previous one, everything here felt like a huge upgrade.
Oh, yeah.
We have so much to say. We got the regular box set. There's both a regular and a deluxe box set. They both come with a PDF, and you can also get just the base rules of the PDF, I believe, for free now. And I really like this game designer. Rob, have you ever played Two Rooms and a Boom? Did we?
No, I haven't.
Together? No, okay. All right, it's a party game by Sean McCoy. And it's absolutely delightful. It's not a board game. It's like, hey, do you have 15 to 30 people? Do you want to play a party game? This one's an absolute delight. Anyway, that is to say that Tuesday Night Games creates both amazing board games and role-playing games. And let's talk about this one. Rob, to start us off, I just want to say I loved reading this. I love almost everything about this game. So
yeah, I don't want to hide the ball here. This is maybe my new favorite role-playing game. Role-playing game. I am excited to. I have a friend who wants to run this. I would like to run this myself. This is, in my opinion, a masterpiece. I think this might be the best RPG I have read in recent years. It is really, really good. Here's the thing. It speaks directly to the things that I care about and I find fun and I want to see in a book, but I think it's fantastic.
Here's my like big take on it is I will probably never run a Mothership campaign. However, I love this so much, not only for its like cool layout and art, an amazing dungeon master advice, which we're gonna get into. I'm going to absolutely run one-shots of this. I run a scary, spooky one-shot every year around Halloween time. It's usually been Call of Cthulhu. It will be Mothership this year. I will not run a campaign of this just because that doesn't interest me, but that's okay. It's still one of the best RPGs I've read because I'll run a one-shot and love it.
What I will probably run at least a one-shot. What I might do is mix in. I loving my Shadowrun open table game, which is on semi-hiatus at the moment. But I kind of wish that Mothership had been around when I launched that, because now I kind of want to just do an open table Mothership campaign. But yeah, I'm not sure I want to do an extended campaign of this, but I would love to do sort of, a loose semi-permanent open table, or just a bunch of one-shots, because this would be so easy and fun to run, and there's so many great ideas here. It's super cool.
And so to be clear, our experience with this is a detailed reading of the new edition and having been players in a short campaign of the previous edition. RIP to my coffee drinking teamster who tried his very, very best to not get involved with things and still got killed anyway. What
Matt
kind
and
of
I
game
both
is
played
this?
teamsters who died tragically.
We're like, all right, we're showing up late to this campaign, both of us. We're gonna both be the
grease monkeys,
grease monkeys who do not, because everyone else is like a fancy scientist or an android. We're like,
or
okay,
a marine or an android.
We're not going to have any skills. We're going to be trying to stay alive, people. And I think we both. Well, I failed at this.
I failed too. I think I made
so much fun.
I think my high score was 2 sessions. We'll talk about high scores in a second, but the average is not a lot higher than that.
What is this game? As Rob says, it's sci-fi horror. It is very rules light. Character creation is a breeze and fast. You could describe it as old school in that it's kind of built around a basic role-playing game D100 engine with some unique mechanics that I think really help it sell, but a lot of the stuff is not in the mechanics. It's in the advice to the dungeon master, or warden as it's called in this game, and in the feel and vibes of just everything involved.
To me, the closest comparison is actually Shadow Dark, which comes from similar design principles, but that doesn't entirely do either game justice. But there are similar design priorities and aesthetics, and they are both crunchy in some ways and very, very loose in others. And in both cases, they are deadly, and it's very quick to get started. And I think the systems are both very elegant and work very nicely and are very simple to understand and simple to play and to run.
Let's talk about some big picture stuff of the system and what you get. I think my first big picture stuff is that more thought and effort has gone into the layout and design of what you get for your money than any system I've purchased in recent memory. If you buy the $70 or $60 basic box set, not only do you get tokens to play the game, you get a cool mat, a baby DM screen, and of course, the bare minimum for new systems, an excellent starting adventure, which we'll talk about. I'm sure this is great. The layout and what you get is spot on.
Yeah, the book comes with, there's a player's guide, which is basically your core rule book. There's a warden's operations manual, which is your GM's guide. There's, like Matt said, a great starting adventure. There's character sheets. There's a ship manifest. There's a
bestiary of types.
A bestiary. Sorts. There's a bunch of tables for generating adventures and ideas. you can run this with just the survival guide, but if you want, there's a ton of, this is again, $1 for word. This is a really, really high value box set. It comes with a lot of really good stuff.
Considering now these are all like pamphlet sized books that don't have hard covers. They're more just like stapled together zines. But compared to the fact that for the same amount of money you would typically get a single hardcover book, I will take this every time over that, right? Having the tokens, having the DM screen, having a whole adventure that is very good to start off just like makes getting into the game and playing it so much easier than just a 300-page hardcover.
Well, even though they're, shorter, thinner books, there is no wasted space, and there's plenty of rich description and interesting ideas. It's just so much more efficiently conveyed than in your average 300, 400 page, core rulebook doorstopper, which I also love. But like, you are getting the same amount of information, if not more. It's just so much better laid out and described and written. It's efficient. It's sharp. This is fantastic.
Here's a tweet from the creator, Sean McCoy. The rule is, quoting here, the rule is, can this prose be bullet points? Can the bullet points be a table? Can the table be a diagram? Can the diagram be a map? Can the map be an illustration? And really asking those questions and answering them correctly makes this a joy to read and super fun to use as a reference.
There are tons of, we love charts, tons of great charts, tons of great flow charts, diagrams, illustrations. Like, this is really, again, both in terms of illustration, but also in terms of layout, just an absolute top-notch effort.
The next big picture thing I'll say is that even if you are not interested in running a sci-fi game or a horror game, the advice for running games in the Warden's, whatever it's called, manual is so amazing. I think for me, it was worth the price of this system by itself.
Absolutely. The Warden's operations manual is really, 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 really good.
All right, I think that's enough big picture stuff. Let's get down to specifics. There are 3 like specific things I want to talk about. Maybe there's more you've got, Rob, but I want to talk about the system. I want to talk about the GM's advice, and I want to talk about the starting adventure.
Matt, you and I are in complete alignment. Let's talk about the player's survival guide, the operations manual, and then just another bug hunt.
All right.
Yeah.
So character creation is super easy. Not only does it take maybe under 5 minutes, but the instructions for character creation are on the character sheet. Mm-hmm. Again, amazing design. You're rolling up stats for a D100 stats, and then you also roll up saves. This might be a change from the first edition. I don't remember rolling my saves before. You also pick a class from among 4 things, which gives you the tables for equipment to roll on and what skills you choose, a trauma response. You then determine your character's health and wounds, your starting stress, you write down your trinkets and your gear, and then you pick a couple, your class gives you a couple skills, and then you can pick some expert skills from a little fancy skill flow chart, and then that's it.
This is really nice. Like we said, there's a lot of great flow charts in here, and this is idiot proof. You start in the top left, you write down your name, pronouns, some notes, and then it tells you follow the arrows. You roll for your stats, you roll for your saves, you select your class, you roll for health, you gain stress, you note down your trauma response, you choose your skills, and then you roll for your equipment loadout, trinket, and patch, which are little doohickeys. This, again, 5 minutes. 5 minutes, and you're done. And we've talked before, I don't always love rolling for stats because you can end up with some wide disparities in play or character ability, but like in OSR style games like this or like Shadow Dark, you're not expected to live a very long time, and it's kind of fun if you have weird bad stats. So and it also isn't that big of a deal if like one of your stats is bad. And I'm increasingly interested in this because it saves time in character creation and just gets people going. And I really, really like how this is laid out.
Right. The 4 stats: strength, speed, intellect, and combat. You might notice one thing that is present in many role-playing games that is missing, but these cover, what you'll be rolling when you're attempting a risky action. And then, you have three saves: sanity, fear, and body, that you'll use when bad things happen to you. The classes, I think, are also super fun.
I love the classes because it's just a package of stats and a trauma response and gear, but that tells you so much. It tells you like what your skills are. It tells you how you respond to trauma, to bad things happening, and your gear is very evocative, right? You can roll on a D10 table, and for the Marine, it's things like, you've got a tank top and camo pants, a combat knife, and some stim packs. For the Teamster, you might have a vac suit, a revolver, a crowbar, and a flashlight. Very, very Dead Space. Anyway, it's great. It's like, every character, even rolled randomly, is going to feel radically different. This isn't even getting to the trinkets and the other gizmos that kind of, flesh out your character's personality and details. I think this is just really fantastically done in a very efficient way.
Yeah, the trauma response too, speaking of just making everything like very evocative. So this is like maybe the most detailed rules you get on your character sheet.
Yeah.
But it works super well. Like, for example, if you're a Marine, when you panic, every close friendly player must make a fear save. So like if you
like Hicks having a panic attack in the APC. Yeah, that's right.
The android is really, really amazing at fear saves. Like, you'll very rarely fail them. But everyone else gains a stress when you attempt a sanity save.
Just jump to talking about sanity in general. I know this is kind of skipping ahead, but since we're talking about the trauma response, it's important context. And we've talked before about, well, I personally really dislike the way that most games deal with trauma, mental health, sanity, whatever. I don't like it in Cyberpunk. I don't really like it in Call of Cthulhu. And that's because
you don't like having mental health points.
I don't like having mental health points, and I don't think you've acquired 20 mental health points. Now you're schizophrenic. Like I just like I do not like. One, it's just like it's obviously ableist, but also it's kind of dumb and like insulting to people everywhere. I really I don't think there's, and we've talked about this, I'm not sure there's like a really good way to do it without maybe stepping on some toes, but I really like how Mothership has done it. And I'll tell you what I like about it is when you panic, or when your character panics, you roll on a table and you've got a D20, and this is the only thing that you use a D20 for, which I love because I hate D20s and I like that it's the panic dice. That's good. My least favorite dice. And it's an action, right? It isn't like you are now, plagued by visions. You are now a schizophrenic. You are now, whatever. It's like, this is what happens when you panic, right? You gain a stress because you're nervous. You have to flee if you will need to engage in violence. You become unresponsive. You have a heart attack or a short circuit if you're an android. I like that it's about like what sort of effect the sanity failure, the panic has on you, rather than you're now 20% more insane. I think it's much better done than other sanity systems. I like the idea broadly of like you're slowly becoming affected by the horrors of space. I think that's a good model, but like I just, the way that other games have done it, I have never really loved, and I really like the way that Mothership does it.
Yeah, so mechanically, panic checks, right? Check against your stress level when something really bad happens. The examples given are watching someone die, witnessing other people panic. The ship makes a critical failure. You encounter something strange and horrifying for the first time, or you choose to make it. And how do you gain stress? You normally start at 2 stress. It can go, I think, all the way up to 20. And you gain stress anytime you fail a check. It doesn't have to be a scary sanity or fear check. If you fail to fix something, your stress level goes up. And so basically throughout the entire game, whenever you're attempting something risky and you fail, your stress is going up. However, if you finish the session or the adventure, right, and you can make it back to R&R, your stress, and this is I think the biggest change mechanically from the previous edition, your stress becomes your experience pool, right, that you can use to not increase everything, but increase your saves. So it's showing that your character has grown, right? And so you actually kind of want stress as a player because, this is how you grow.
And this is great. It's, again, a little bit like Shadow Dark. You get back and you do a little R&R and you gain experience. But in this case, like Matt said, it's really cool because it encourages you to push the limits of your character to do challenging things. Not so much that you're going super high on stress. The maximum you could have is 20 and you start at 2, but you want to be challenging yourself and taking risky rolls. And this is a good time, I think, to talk about the system, which Matt and I have talked recently about dice. And this is one of the most, in my opinion, elegant, delightful, pleasing systems. It is a D100, right? Mm-hmm. So your stats are 2d10 plus 25, so they're gonna average 35 or so, between 30 and 40, and it's basically roll a D100, roll under, right? So at base, you are gonna fail more often than not. You'll get bonuses to skills and to stats based on your class and based on your training, which can get you closer to and above 50 or 60 to make it a little bit more likely, and you can get advantage and disadvantage. And there's one again, just a little tiny thing, critical. You can critically succeed and critically fail if you get doubles on the dice. So if it's above and you've got doubles, that's a critical failure. If it's below and you've got doubles, that's a critical success. I think this is really nice. I think this is really, really fun, easy to understand, easy to know if you've succeeded or failed. It's great.
And I think one thing that's different about this advantage mechanic than other D100s, if I'm reading the rules right, the advantage is just you roll the dice twice. It's not like you're re-rolling one of the dice, mm-hmm. which I think is much easier for players to remember and to use. I really, really like that advantage-disadvantage mechanic. Also, while your base chances of success, right, you're probably going to have somewhere between 30 and 45 in your stats. You're going to boost those stats boost one of those stats based on your class, or all of them if you're a teamster. Plus, skills can give you somewhere between a 10 and 20 point bonus to specific types of rolls if that skill applies. I think this is a great system for in a horror kind of sci-fi game. You want checks to be kind of hard. You want lots of interesting failures to happen. But when you have that advantage mechanic, right, when you want to make it much easier for players to succeed, you can throw that in there.
Yeah, you'll most likely be pretty good at a couple of things and okay at a few things and below average at the rest. But if you're playing to your character's strengths, you won't feel useless, but it is always going to be a little bit nerve-wracking to make a check. And we'll talk about how the game tells you as the GM to deal with that. But also failure is fun, and so is horrible death in space. So it's okay. And like we said, gaining stress is not great, but if you survive, that becomes your character growth. So that's, it to me, some of this is new from when Matt and I played, but I like this, and it would encourage me to play the game and take risks and have fun with it.
And then we should also mention that the violent encounter system, aka the combat system, is incredibly deadly, right? You have a health pool and wounds. When you lose all your health pool, you take a wound, and then you continue losing that health pool until you reach that number again. You take another wound. Wounds are very bad. Losing all your wounds means you are likely to be dead. The weapons and the monsters.
2 wounds to start for the most part.
Unless you're a Marine, I think you get 3, right?
Yeah, but
maybe an android too.
Oh, sorry,
Something
that's
like
right.
that.
I'm sorry. Both the android and the Marine get 1 extra wound. So, but still, that's
boy.
That's your starting health is likely to be in the 10 to 20 range, and a lot of the enemies are putting up numbers like 4d10 damage.
Yeah.
Like the first ones that you encounter. So if you're smart, if your players are smart, they're going to know they don't want to get attacked by anything, and they'll manage that. But like, if anything goes wrong in a combat encounter, there's a very good chance that your players will immediately receive a wound and or die. And that's by design,
Or just roll a gunshot wound, internal bleeding +2, so you're taking more damage.
Right.
Yeah, death is violence is bad, right?
Yes, you want to avoid violence. Yeah,
and I love how the death rolls work.
The death rolls
I'll
so
just
much
quote
fun.
here.
Yeah.
If your death seems imminent, make your last moments count, save someone's life, etc., solve an important mystery, give others time to escape. When you die, the warden makes a death save by placing a D10 in a cup, shaking the cup, and placing it face down on the table, covering the die. As soon as someone spends a turn checking your vitals, the die is revealed, and the roll is looked up on the table below, which is you might be unconscious, you're unconscious and dying, you're comatose, you have died. Half chance that you have just
50% chance of just straight up dying. I like this a lot. It reminds me of Daggerheart. Remember how Daggerheart had that pretty here's what you do when you die, designed to give your players some exciting final moments. I think this is a really good way of handling character death or the risk of character death, and I think it's really well done.
There's so many cool things for building your character and explaining the rules in the player's handbook. As one thing we skipped over is the trinkets table. I rolled earlier, which is my Teamster has a coffee cup chip that reads "Happiness is mandatory," and yes, a patch that says "All out of fucks to give." So these are delightful. There's not a lot about creating like a character backstory or a name table. That's kind of something that I think you're assumed to help develop over time or create together as you're sitting around making characters, right? The warden or the DM kind of needs to give everyone, hey, you're the crew of the ship. Hey, you're a team of mercenaries. Hey, you're a recovery team. Oh, you're working for the Corp X doing this, which is why, in my opinion, this is a game that is really great for a very short campaign or a one-shot. It's like, yeah, who's Ripley and this crew? It doesn't. They work on the ship. You'll figure it out.
On the ship, figure it out. I really like this, and like I said, the campaign that Matt and I played in, I wanted to be a Teamster. That was fun. I expected to die, and I did. For my next one, I think I might just roll entirely randomly and see what comes up, because I think that's part of the fun of it. Especially in a campaign where you expect your character to die, I wouldn't want to invest a lot of time in their backstory. I also personally think that it's fun to see what the dice give you and then build a story around that, especially if you're doing it at the same time as the other players. I think coming up with an explanation for why this random collection of people is working together is pretty cool. I think that's a lot of fun.
So I don't have too much else to say about the system. There are rules for weapons, rules for equipment, things you can spend your credits on. You can spend your credits on skill training if you're playing like a longer campaign. Rules on recovery, rules on medical care, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think I'm ready to talk about some of the game running advice here.
Yeah, I think so too. Lots of great charts. Lots of everything that you need is here. There's a great sidebar on how to be a great player, which I really like. is something that, we have discussed, I think is, maybe more advice for players. But this is a tight, really well written, interesting book. There's a little bit about sanity, a little bit about the environment. Oh, I like these. Sorry, I want to talk very briefly about the rules for contractors, Matt. I think that
okay, sure,
the contractors are cool. They're basically like hireable NPCs. They work very much like a regular character, but they have even more streamlined stats. I like this because you can hire on a couple of these, and if one of your players dies, like in the middle of the campaign, they can just take over a contractor. And I also think having a few of these around to fill in after a player dies or if a new player joins is kind of a neat idea. I think it's a well designed sort of additional system. Anyway, contractors neat.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. You definitely need to have some other characters ready to go, and this is why character creation taking 5 minutes is super important, because characters will die frequently. Unlike most other role-playing games I have ever read, I've read a lot of role-playing games. I feel like I know how to create a Mothership adventure better than like creating an adventure for any other systems. And I haven't even done it yet. That's how good I think the Warden advice is.
The Warden operations manual is it's fantastic. It like there's so much about it that's good, but yeah, I think this really, yeah. Let's talk about the whole thing, because it really does like teach you how to design and run an adventure in a very straightforward way. I really, really like it.
Right. So it starts off with like how to prepare your first session. There's like an example set of notes, and it clearly lays out, okay, like you should have, something for the players to investigate, something that is scary. What is the horror? What are they trying to survive? Give them something to solve. Give them someone to save. Here's how you map it out, et cetera, et cetera. It really lays out the kind of how to get started, how to do the middle, what a conclusion, you're not going to know the conclusion, and that's okay. This is why. I love this set of advice for writing adventure.
Yeah, it's a 10-step like prep, and I love each of these 10 steps and the examples that are given. I really, increasingly am thinking good examples matter a lot. And there's a lot of good examples of play in the player's handbook, and there's a lot of good examples of prep in this, which is something that is missing from a lot of GM guides. And it's written as if, this is just some person writing it down, and in their notebook, you've got to get organized, pick your scenario. You've got a horror, something to survive, something to solve, and someone to save, and then a little map and some details. And they've got 10 basic sort of like scenarios, just ideas for an adventure, an encounter, and you pick from, and then you can sort of go from there. There are charts to roll on if you need suggestions for where to get started, but it's so easy to just like I'm already just like swimming in ideas.
Right. Here's an example on how to create a horror on the step find the horror. Use the simple tombs cycle. It's an
I
acronym.
want to talk about tombs so much.
Right.
Yes.
Let me just read what it is here for players, or for our listeners, so they know what we're talking about. Act 1, transgression. Someone knowingly or unknowingly awakens the horror. Act 2, omens. The horror heralds its arrival through signs and signals. Act 3, manifestation. The horror reveals its true form to the players. Act 4, banishment. The players race against the clock to fight back and attempt to destroy or escape the horror. Act 5, slumber. The horror has relented for now.
This is so good. And if you are familiar with Alien or with Event Horizon or The Thing or any number of classic sci-fi horror films or properties, you'll understand this cycle, and it will immediately make sense to you. They uncover a box with something bad in it. They investigate an alien egg. They, touch a substance they shouldn't touch, and then bad things start to happen. Horrible alien monstrosity appears. They have to either destroy or lock it away, and then, you get a hint that it's coming back. And it's this one, tombs, it's easy to remember. Transgression, omens, manifestation, banishment, slumber. But I think structuring it this way is one of the better layouts that I've ever encountered. It's very easy to immediately understand how to run an adventure with this in mind. I think this is really well done.
Right. You have to have, you can't have something scary if you don't have omens, right? If you don't have all the clues that are telling players something's happening, right?
Yeah.
And
something's coming.
That's the, right. Yeah. That's like, again, we've talked about this before. No one's actually, or very few people are actually scared during a horror game, but you're recreating that idea of a scary movie or book. And all of those things have, hey, that's a weird thing that's happening. That's pretty ominous. That's an ominous omen. Okay, what next?
You've got your horror set up, and then I really like that the way that they have laid this out. You have something that your players need to survive, something that they need to solve, and then something that they need to save. Right. This is a great setup for any adventure, but especially for this type of adventure, right? So the thing that they have to survive is obviously the horror, but also maybe it's, actual combat, or it's environmental hazards like radiation or zero-G or spores or something like that. Or it could even be social pressures. Like let's think about Alien, which is a masterpiece of a movie and also like a great model for this, right? There is the horrible vacuum of space, right? Of course, there is the alien that is trying to kill them. But then there's also the fact that the corporation, Weyland Yutani, wants them to die and also at best doesn't care about them, but, is using them, right? There's all these different things that are conspiring to make the movie and the scenario so tense and so terrifying. And you can pick and choose, use all of them. I think the game is designed with the thought that you are going to be encountering all sorts of different hazards and different survival scenarios. But, you could lean really heavily on one or the other.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think one of the things about this sort of overall guide to writing your adventure is it's not a guide that's really telling you, okay, you need step this, then this. Like the steps in this are all creating just the situation that's going on and helping you write kind of what happened before. What was the transgression that awakened the horror? Who are the people who the players might want to save, right? What's the puzzle they have to uncover? It's really trying to help you write that kind of open-ended scenario that is both scary and weird, both the horror and sci-fi part. That's not a linear adventure, right? That hey, you create this map, the players can go anywhere. Let's play to see what happens, right?
Yeah, like the something to solve section that is it's got a flowchart, but it's a very simple flowchart, right? It's like mysteries, the questions like what happened here, what do we do? Puzzles, which is basically just an obstacle, like either it's, a locked door or it could be a literal like puzzle or cipher. And then clues, evidence, answers, but this is clever, the arrow leads back to mysteries because every answer just reveals more mysteries,
Right. Let's talk about the mysteries and creating compelling answers on page 14. This is some of my favorite advice in the book, right?
Yes.
Not only does it give us a fun chart with types of evidence and what type of lead, right? Is it a map? Is it a person? Is it a document? Is it physical stuff? But just some great things about the mystery, right? Show them a place, show them the lock before the key. Show them a place they can't go or a thing they can't figure out before they have a chance to figure it out or open it, right? Name one thing, many different things. This is an easy way for players to feel like they're putting something together when they realize all these names are referring to the same thing, right? And just reveal, have more clues than you think you need, and reveal all the facts. Don't give them the conclusions.
Yes. These are lessons that we've talked about before, lessons from games like Brindlewood Bay. But yeah, a key thing to do is do not give them the conclusion, just give them more facts than they need, more clues than they need, and let them put it together themselves.
Mechanic-wise, this brings up a piece of frequent advice in the Warden manual, which is the Mothership encourages you not to use its mechanics as frequently as possible, right? There's advice everywhere. Don't make a roll. Don't make a roll. Just give this to your players. Don't make them find a clue. Just ask them where they're looking. And if they're looking in the right place, give them the clue. The mechanics are there when things are very, very risky, or you at the table like just don't have enough time to describe this scene. You're trying to get through something. You can just be like, make a roll. Failure means you didn't find the thing, or you only found one of them. Success means you found all the things.
Yeah, there's several sections about this, and yeah, you're encouraged. I mean, I think this is because you don't want a lot of unsuccessful rolling, and it can be unfun, and this is good advice. It's don't make your players engage the mechanics unless it matters, unless it's important.
Here's two examples, or one example of that. And I know I just talked about this in our episode on rethinking social encounters. But on page 36, it tells you, the DM, hey, there's a reason there are no social skills in this game, right? Handle, it definitely takes the approach at that far end of the spectrum that social encounters are held just through you and your players talking through their characters and NPCs' voices. If someone is lying, it says in the text here, just tell them, right? I use this with my players. It works great, right? Don't make rolls. Hey, they can tell this person is lying. If the players lie to a character, the character, doesn't know that they're lying unless it's just something they couldn't believe, right? That's impossible for them to believe. This works great, especially for this type of horror rules-like game.
I do like this advice a lot. Like we talked about in the social mechanics episode, I do think I like a little bit more crunch than this, but this is really good advice and is probably more likely to lead to a satisfying social encounter than something else if you're not prepared. I really love this section on negotiation. There's a little bit on, there's just like a little box on negotiation. It starts with, this game can go some really fun places if the players don't try and shoot their way out of every situation. I like this because it's true. And two, I think this applies to almost every game. And I think that it is good advice. And here's some like bullet points about it. Most people would rather talk than fight. I think that's generally true. Mm-hmm. A reputation for violence follows the players. Negotiation requires leverage, right? You can't, and this is something, this reminds me of the mechanic from Exalted, the intimacies, right? You have to have something on somebody to affect them, right? But it's good advice. And then, the last piece of advice is a good piece of advice. Don't kill surrendered players because they'll never surrender. This is, I think building this into any campaign where death or defeat is common is good. Let your players lose and then not die or forever be imprisoned. I think this is good advice.
I love the explanation of what it means to have an interactive NPC, and the quote is, and the best way to make them interactive is to say the quiet part loud. Don't hide who they really are. Have them have clear wants and needs, right? Even a cagey, deceptive characters should be obviously cagey and deceptive, right? Don't make your players figure out who NPCs are and what they want, right? Put it on the surface. Tell them when they're lying. Tell them, describe what they're like and what they want. And then, yes, this is, I think, the kind of overarching advice that's given over and over again. It's just like, give more information to your players. More information leads to better choices, more informed decisions, more exciting role-playing. And that's how, NPC interaction is handled here, right? Give more information to your players. And one fun way to do that is on page 17, there's an amazing chart that you can kind of just put an NPC or roll on over what's their attitude or how they interact. They're a survivor. They're a benefactor. They're a drinking buddy. They're a coward, right?
Yeah, it's a
chart,
like a 9-box chart on 4 different axes from powerful to powerless, helpful to unhelpful. You have different types of people who sit different places. This is really good advice. I mean, this is really good advice. Everything in this is really good advice. But we talked about the over-the-top characters thing in the social, or I think in our social mechanics episode, but recently.
We absolutely did, yeah.
We made the point, and, I could not agree more because we made it, but don't be subtle. I have this problem. Like, I like to be, subtle, or I think I'm being clever, but my players are absolutely not picking up what I'm putting down. So your deceptive, weaselly character should be extremely deceptive and weaselly, and your, prideful, bombastic character should be absolutely over the top. Remember, this is similar to the issue with clues. Your players aren't in your head. Give them more than you think that they need, because you just don't know what they're picking up. And this is great advice. Be over the top, exaggerated, lean into not stereotypes, lean into character archetypes, be a cookie cutter, be a type of guy, really inhabit those different types of guys.
It's the more general advice that the Warden's Manual gives is on page 30, which is just reminding you that you're all picturing something different. Therefore, you need to tell your players what are the plausible outcomes, right? What you think's likely to happen if they fail. What's at stake, right? And this is just a great reminder for all GMs, right? For every game, and this one especially, right? And, if it's a mystery horror sci-fi game where there's weird things that you can't understand and you're being given this advice, it applies to the other games where things aren't as weird or as horrifying.
The final paragraph in that section is, the goal is to give your players a chance to correct your logic, change their plans, and to make sure you're all on the same page. That's why you're not telling them exactly what will happen, but you're trying to give them a sense of what the stakes are, so that everybody can make informed decisions. One of the bullet points is informed decisions lead to better play, right? We've all been in this scenario, Matt and I've talked about this before, where your players do something completely unexpected and perhaps, in your opinion, stupid. And, I think an experienced GM can be like, well, you die. Way to go.
Right.
And sometimes
you open the door, space comes in, the monsters come in, you're all eaten. Okay.
I have, on at least one occasion, just had to kill a player who was not paying attention to the what I thought were very obvious clues, but you really want to avoid that, right? And
sometimes characters want to do the stupid thing, right?
Yes.
Occasionally, but often it's because they're picturing something different in their head.
Right. The thing you want to avoid is a player saying, well, I didn't know that would happen. I wouldn't have done that. That's what you can't avoid that all of the time, but that's the advice in here is about that, and it's really good advice for how to avoid having that happen.
So one thing I think my final point on the Warden's Manual is that most games, right, even games like Shadow Dark or something, will be like, hey, make a map of your dungeon. This has no wasted words here on how to create a map, how to key that map, how to treat the different doors and passageways and areas on your map, right? How to incorporate the, something to survive, solve, save, and your tombs of horror into that. Very rarely have I read a role-playing game which has fewer wasted words.
Yep.
There's also great tips for teaching the game. The
last
running
thing that
things in general
I'd like to mention is that and we don't have to go into it too much, but there's a really good section on what is a house rule. And there are 3 divisions, which I really like. There's interpretive rulings. So these are judgments about what would happen, giving the details at your disposal. This is things like if your players just barely fail. Like maybe you give it to them, but they take some stress. Generally, I complain about this because I think it opens up some potential problems for you as the GM and makes your job harder. If the system's designed well, like in Mothership, I think it's nice and good, but these are things that we do all the time. I do this all the time in D&D, even though it's explicitly against the rules. There's procedural rulings, which are when to use, one rule or another. These are rules lawyer rulings. Yes. The systemic rulings is when you add a rule or change a rule. Like you're like, actually, we're going to hack the system a little bit so that instead of this, we do this. And I really like this sort of like an interpretive ruling is when there's a fuzzy area, like a D&D example might be like, can I jump from this railing and grab onto the chandelier? And I'm like, well, there's not good rules for that in D&D, but yeah, sure, why not? Let make a athletics check. A procedural ruling is, which rule we're going to use, and a systemic ruling is like, I'm going to add a house rule for whatever. I think that this, and the explanations, and there's examples of these in Mothership. This is not specific to this system. This is an example of what Matt and I have been talking about, of just it being great, just GM advice in general.
This system is a great example. We've talked about where it applies more, where it applies less, of like rules aligning things. Social encounters, right? There's no social stat, right? It's because we're not using our dice for that. You have to talk to me and I have to talk to you in a fake character voice, and we compare what we both know and want. The same is true. The example given here is there's no stealth stat, right? Because it's like, describe where your character is hiding, right? If we need to make a check, it's only about the speed of this. And we'll compare what I described about this monster or these evil mercs that are boarding your ship to how you describe your hiding, right? There's no stealth stat, but of course, these are things you could easily add to this game if you wanted to have the rules for these things.
Yeah,
there are several adventures in the premium box set. If you buy the regular box set, you just get one, which is Another Bug Hunt, and it is, I think, around 40 pages. Rob, what was your opinion of Another Bug Hunt?
I overall loved it. I have one kind of meta gripe that we can talk about when we get to the end. I thought it was really well written, really well laid out, really easy to run, some great charts, some great maps, some great illustrations, and I think this would be a great introductory adventure to Mothership, even if you run just part of it.
It is, I think, a great introductory adventure. I think as written, it probably will take you 2 to 4 sessions. However, there is plenty of advice on how to use part of it for a one-shot. Kind of every section is like, if you're using this for a one-shot, just go straight to this part, and then your goal, the someone to save, is just this and this. I think the horror it presents, and so spoilers here for Another Bug Hunt, is very, very good, right? It's really just a twist on old classics, right? On what players might expect. Actually, very few spoilers for Bug Hunt. I think we can talk about this vaguely enough, right?
Sure.
It's a twist on old classic that is interesting enough that your players still have something to discover, right? A puzzle to solve.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of a spoiler, but like this is my only complaint about it, which is not really a complaint because I actually think that it's mostly a good thing. But this adventure follows the plot, the broad plot, beats of Aliens almost to like a T. It is, your players are going to realize like what's happening and what they're playing pretty quickly. Again, some of the details are different in an interesting way. And I think it would still be fun to play, but like the specific things that happen and challenges that arise are basically what happens in the movie Aliens, combined with some stuff from the movie Alien. Down to some
mishmash of those two things. Yeah,
some specific like character actions and motivations. All of that being said, I actually think that's kind of fun. I think that it's well done. It is, your players will either love this or they'll be like, this is just Aliens with the serial numbers filed off. So that's like, I think this is intentional. I mean, I know this is intentional. I can see this maybe being like I don't know, a potential issue. That was my only complaint about Another Bug Hunt.
Right. I guess I have to agree here. If you compare the sort of antagonistic horror of Another Bug Hunt to the list of horrors in the unconfirmed contact reports, it's by far the one that I feel like just through, maybe not the weirdest one, but the one through media that is like most familiar to the majority of people. Because the horrors in unconfirmed contact reports are super weird.
Some of them are real weird,
interesting,
which is very cool. I mean, yeah, they have, ancient, like, yeah, the unconfirmed contact reports has all kinds of like crazy wild stuff in it. Like space dragons and space angels and
the root language,
mimetic viruses and shit. It's good.
Oh yeah. The mimetic viruses. The root language was my favorite. There's like a weird alien Cthulhu serial killer, the engineer. The monolith is great, and a twist on what if the monolith was even more scary. My favorite was the vitalizing field, a weird energy thing. It reminds me that if you're like doing this as a one shot, I would always tell any scientist characters and android characters what are the specific science skills that are most useful here, right? Like if you have a weird horror that's like a quantum energy field, let your scientist have the skill that relates to that one and not xenobiology or whatever.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like if you got a scientist, let them know what science that they're going to use, because if they're a xenobiologist and there are no aliens in this adventure, then that's going to be very upsetting for them.
Right. So if it's a one shot, one shot. So yeah, I would say Rob is absolutely right. Another Bug Hunt is a little cliche. I do feel like it is easy to run because you've, kind of got like 3 distinct areas. All the maps are very good. All the NPCs are over the top. If you've never run a old school style horror game, I think, this problem becomes a benefit if your players have never played in one.
Yeah.
If you've probably played a lot of Call of Cthulhu and Traveler or whatever, and you're looking for something really different, I would say there are a ton of published adventures for Mothership, both that you can buy in the premium box. You can buy them on their own. There's a lot of third-party ones people have published.
This is really good. It's great. It's just it's going to be familiar to certain types of people, but on the other hand, it's really well written and really interesting. And I would still play it and have fun. But if you're trying to innovate, this is not really the place to start. But there's like Matt said, there's tons of other adventures. There's tons in the unconfirmed contact reports. You could change. There's a couple of things you could change about Another Bug Hunt. Specifically, I think the antagonist and their motivations that would add enough of a twist to make it not just aliens, and then you'd have like an awesome adventure to work with.
Yeah, I mean, like it if you want to change it from bugs to the root language.
Slap
I think
slap
you
something
could do
from
that. That would be a little bit of work, but I was already thinking of, I really want to use this page from the unconfirmed contact reports in an adventure.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say if you want a sci-fi horror game that is rules light and incredibly well written, I highly recommend getting either of the box sets for Mothership. If you don't want that type of game, it's completely understandable. I still think the Warden's Operations Manual is just essential reading for every game master who is vaguely interested in this school of thought.
If you're at all interested, you should check it out. This is an unqualified recommendation from me. The only reason, only reason not to get it is if you don't like sci-fi horror, and even then, still probably worth reading.
Yeah. If you would like to have us do more Mothership, review in more depth some of the other Mothership adventures, that's something I would love to do. Send us an email at dmofnone@gmail.com. Or if you have any other questions or suggestions, that's where you can find us.
And if you like listening to us and want more, be sure to check out our Patreon at patreon.com/dungeonmasterofnone. We've got many, many more episodes and other goodies for you to check out.
Stay frosty, Rob. 5x5, coming down the pipe, all that good stuff.
5x5. 5x5. All right, thanks for listening, everybody, and keep rolling them dice.
How many times does an angel fall? How many people lie instead of talking tall? He trod on sacred ground, he cried.